Start our show back up again with our Alpine Milking Yearling class. Just a pair of udders in this class will be 1 and 2. Just picking up the advantage in that mammary system on this first place doe as it relates to just showing us a little more width to that rear udder attachment, a little more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side over our second udder and 2. Looking at the full scorecard, she has that advantage in the mammary system, but then also in dairy strength. She's a doe that's a longer bone pattern. She's more open about that rear rib. She additionally has the advantage in general appearance as it comes to the strength of those rear pasterns today compared to the doe here in 2. Our second place doe, really do appreciate the smoothness of blending about the shoulder assembly, and she should be commended for that. Our class of Nubian yearling milkers. Udders in this class will be 1 and 2. First place udder over our second place udder. It's primarily for the forudder attachment. We've just seen more smoothness of blending that attachment, a little more capacity to that forudder attachment as well. Our second udder over our third place doe in terms of just the mammary system, it's for the balance that she shows between the halves as well as the height to the rear udder advantage that she shows as well. When we look at the full scorecard, in addition to that mammary system advantage, our first place doe does have the advantage in dairy strength. She's a little longer about the neck. She's smoother blending from the neck into the withers as well as being a longer bone pattern throughout. 2 then placing over 3, once again in addition to that mammary system advantage in the area of general appearance. She's a doe that as she's walking around the wing is more correctly level through the area of the loin than what we see in our third place doe. Third place doe, really do appreciate those strong straight front legs that she has, and she should be commended for that.
In our Alpine Yearling Milker class, first place and best udder goes to entry 74, Gilmore Acres Revival Sequoia, exhibited by Lynn Wolf, Mason, Illinois. Second place and second best udder to entry 77, Beck Farms Vals Vicious, exhibited by Lydia Beck, Seymour, Indiana. And in our Nubian Yearling Milker class, first place and best udder went to entry 97, Hohenboo Epic Ever in Your Favor, exhibited by Holly Broker, Bell Fountain, Ohio. Second place and second best udder to entry 99, Begley's Troubled Acre Mystery, exhibited by Lisa Begley, Martinsville, Ohio. And third place to entry 100, Begley's Troubled Acres Tink, also exhibited by Lisa Begley.
Our class of Alpine 2-year-olds are coming in the line. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 4. First place udder over our second place udder. It's really in that rear udder attachment. Just seeing more width to that rear udder today, more capacity up into that rear udder as well. Combine that with a little bit more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side. Our second place udder, placing over the remainder of the class, our second place udder on this fourth place stow, is for the extreme overall area of udder support. She has such extension to that lateral attachment, such extension to that fore udder attachment. I really wanted to highlight that, and those are the reasons that she places over the other mammary systems in this class. Going to the full scorecard placings, one does place over 2 for the advantage in the mammary system. Once again, specifically just showing us a little more width to that rear udder attachment, a little more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side. She has more capacity in that fore udder attachment as well. She combines that with the advantage she also holds today in dairy strength. She's sharper in the withers. She's a little bit more angular about that rear rib as well compared to the doe in 2. 2 then is placing over 3. This is for her primary advantage. First of all, in general appearance, she's a doe that when you get her out on the move, levels out more correctly through the area of the loin than what we see in 3. She's also a little more level in the rump from hips to pins. She'll combine that with the advantage she also holds today in the area of body capacity. She's deeper at that point of elbow, wider in that chest floor than what we see in the doe in 3. Third place doe, while she grants to the mammary system on this fourth place doe, she does have the advantage when it comes to the area of dairy strength. She's a little leaner about that neck. She's smoother blending from the neck into the withers. She's more open about that rear rib. She'll combine that with the advantage she also holds in the area of general appearance, just showing me a little more correct angulation in that rear leg, a little more strength to that rear pastern today than what we see in 4. 4 then is placing over 5 for the advantage in the mammary system. We just see more extension to that lateral attachment, which gives her the edge and overall area of udder support. She has more width to that fore udder attachment. You combine that with the advantage that she now has as it relates to the strength of rear legs, just more freedom of motion about that rear leg today than what we see in 5. 5 then placing over 6 is for her primary advantage in dairy strength. She's longer and leaner about the neck. She's more open and angular in that rear rib. She's just a flatter boned individual than what we see in 6. You combine that with the advantage she has when it comes to the mammary system, showing us more height and width to the rear udder than our 6th place doe. 6 then is placing over 7. This is a close placing, but our 6th place doe does have the advantage when it comes to moving around the ring in general appearance and feet and legs. She's a doe that tracks with more correct set to that rear leg today than what we see in 7. And then you combine that with the advantage she has in body capacity, being wider and deeper in that chest floor, and deeper with more spring to that rear rib than what we see in the doe in 7. 7 then placing over 8. This is for her primary advantage in general appearance. In that front end assembly, she has more extension to the brisket. She's walking around the ring tighter at the point of elbow today than what we see in 8. 8 placing over the remainder of the class. Just felt like we had a better combination of strength of feet and legs, specifically in the rear leg department, a little straighter in that rear leg when viewed from behind. You combine that with the advantages that she has in the mammary system over some of the does behind her, was enough to put her in 8 over the rest of the class today. Just a pair of does here in our newbie and 2-year-old class. Udders in this class will be 2 and 1. Our second place doe does have the advantage in the mammary system as it relates to having more width to that rear udder attachment, more extension to that fore udder attachment, just more correct shape to this mammary system when viewed from the side. But when we look at the rest of the scorecard, we're picking up an advantage 1/2 in the area of darius strength. She's longer and leaner about the neck. She's more open about that rear rib. So we're picking up the advantage in general appearance as it relates to the strength through that loin area while on the move. And then we're picking up the advantage in body capacity, just showing me a little more width in that chest floor. So for those reasons, 1 places over 2, but our second place doe will be our first place udder. Our class of Alpine 3-year-olds coming in the line. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 3. First place udder over our second place udder. We're just picking up the advantage in terms of having more width to that rear udder attachment, a little more capacity to this mammary system as a whole. Just more overall area of udder support as well on this mammary system. Second udder over the balance of the class. We're just picking up the advantage in terms of having more extension to that lateral attachment, a little more width in that fore udder attachment than what we see in some of the does either right before her or behind her today. When looking at the full scorecard, our first place doe over our second place doe is for that mammary system advantage. She just shows us so much more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side, more width to that rear udder attachment, more height to that rear udder attachment. You combine that with the advantage she also holds in the area of general appearance as it relates to being a little wider through the loin area, as well as the rump from thurl to thurl, and that'll put her 1 over 2. 2 then placing over 3, while she will have to grant to the mammary system on this third place doe, she does have the advantage when it comes to the area of general appearance. She's more abstaining to the withers, she's more correctly level in the rump from hips to pins. In feet and legs, she's a doe that shows a little more correct angulation to that rear leg today. She's standing on a stronger set of rear pasterns. You combine that with the advantage she has in body capacity. She's wider and deeper in that chest floor, a little longer into that rear barrel today than what we see in our third place doe. 3 placing over 4 for the advantage in the mammary system, just more capacity to this mammary system, more extension and fullness to that fore udder today. You combine that with the advantage she has in dairy strength. She's leaner about the neck. You get your hands on these 2 does. Our doe in 3 is a doe that's more open about that rear rib, a little more correctly pliable of skin today as well compared to the doe in 4. 4 then placing over 5. This is for her primary advantage in general appearance. In that front end assembly, she has more extension to that brisket. She has more width in that front end assembly. You combine that with the advantage she has in body capacity. She's deeper at that point of elbow. She's wider in the chest floor than what we see in 5. 5 then placing over 6. This is for her primary advantage in dairy strength. She's a flatter bone, more angular individual. You combine that with the advantage she has in the mammary system. She has more overall area of udder support. She has more width to that fore udder attachment today than what we see in 6. 6 then placing over 7. She will have to grant to the mammary system on the 7th place doe, but we're picking up such an advantage in the area of general appearance. She has more correctly angulated rear legs. She's stronger on that rear pastern. In that front end assembly, she has more width to that front end. You combine that with the advantage she has in terms of body capacity, being deeper at the point of elbow with more depth back into the rear barrel than the doe here in 7. Our 7th place doe, really one of the more correct mammary systems out here, just not quite the general appearance to go with it. It is that mammary system that carries her over the doe in 8. She has more extension and fullness to that fore udder attachment, more smoothness of blending, as well as being a doe that shows a little more correct shape to this mammary system, both when viewed from the side as well as the rear compared to the doe in 8. 8 then placing over 9 in her turn. This is for the advantage she now has in the mammary system. She has more capacity to this mammary system, just more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side compared to the doe in 8. Our 8th place doe, really do appreciate the length of bone pattern throughout on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Alpine 3-year-old class, first place and best udder goes to entry 97, Moran Traveler's Adventure, exhibited by Randy Adamson. Second place to entry 101, Pleasant Grove Micah, exhibited by Hannah Knight. Third place and second best udder to entry 93, Gilmore Acres Lockhart, exhibited by Lynn Wolfe. Fourth place to entry 100, Hohenboo Pom Pom Powder Puff, exhibited by Drew Broker, Bellefountain, Ohio. Fifth place to entry 99, Kickaboo Valley Piper Moment, exhibited by Meredith Lunn. Sixth place to entry 96, the West Liberty Farm Freya, exhibited by Brenda Leitner. Eighth place to entry 91, Echo Light Almeida, exhibited by Hannah Neeson. And ninth place to entry 94, WE Farm Song, Lincoln Titzer.
Our class of Nubian 3-year-olds coming into line. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 2. Our first place udder over our second place udder. Just tremendous overall area of udder support on this first place doe. She has the advantage in the extension to that lateral attachment as well as the width and fullness to that forudder attachment. Our second place udder over the 2 does behind her in the mammary system. We're just picking up the advantage in terms of the balance to this mammary system, both when viewed from the side as well as from behind. In the full scorecard placings, 1 place is over 2 for the advantage in the mammary system. Well, in addition to that, having the advantage in body capacity, she's deeper into that rear barrel. She has more length into that rear barrel as well. You combine that with a slight advantage that she has in terms of strength of that front end assembly and general appearance, showing us more extension to that brisket today than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage in the mammary system. She's picking up the edge in terms of having more balance between the halves when viewed from behind, as well as more width to that rear udder attachment. You combine that with the advantage she also holds today in terms of dairy strength. She's a little leaner about the neck, a little more angular throughout as well compared to the doe in 3. She will have to grant to the incredible top line on this third place doe, and it's for the advantage in general appearance that carries 3 over 4. Just tremendous levelness through the China loin area on this doe, as well as in the rump from hips to pins, being more level than the doe behind her in 4. Combine that with the advantage she has in feet and legs, having a little more proper set to that rear leg when viewed from the side compared to the doe in 4. Fourth place doe, really do appreciate the height of rear udder on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Nubian 3-year-old class, first place and best udder goes to entry 106, Begley's Troubled Acres Hoopla, exhibited by Lisa Begley, Martinsville, Ohio. Second place and second best udder to entry 108, Hohenbu Epic Faithful Fortune, exhibited by Holly Broker, Bell Fountain, Ohio. Third place to entry 109, Hohenbu WWFA Everdeen, exhibited by Holly Broker. And fourth place to entry 107, Begley's Troubled Acre Tipster, exhibited by Lisa Begley.
Our Alpine 4-year-old class coming in line. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 2. Our first place udder over our second place udder, just picking up the advantage and having more capacity to this mammary system gives her the edge. First of all, an overall area of udder support, but then in addition to that, in that balance of the mammary system when viewed from the side. Our second udder over the balance of the class, just picking up the advantage and having more extension and fullness to that fore udder today. A little more overall area of udder support as well than the does behind her. When we look at the full scorecard, 1 does place over 2 for the advantage. First of all, in Darius' strength, just picking up an advantage in terms of being longer in that rear rib, a little more open in that rear rib. She's a flatter boned individual as well. You combine that with that mammary system advantage is enough to carry her over 2. 2 then placing over 3, primarily for that mammary system edge. More fullness and extension to that forward attachment, more capacity to this mammary system as well. You then combine that with the advantage she has in terms of body capacity, having more width and depth in that chest floor with more length back into the rear barrel compared to the doe in 3. 3 then placing over 4. This is for her primary advantage in the area of general appearance. It's in that top line. She's more quickly level in the loin as well as in the rump from hips to pins. We look at feet and legs. She's a doe that shows more strength to that rear pastern, a little more correct set to that rear leg today. In Darius' strength, she's a doe that's a flatter boned individual than what we see in the doe in 4. 4 then placing over 5 is for her primary advantage once again in general appearance. This time in the front end assembly. She has more natural extension to that brisket. Forelegs placed more properly beneath the withers. She's walking around the wing tighter at the point of elbow today than what we see in the doe in 5. 5 then placing over 6. This for her primary advantage in the mammary system. She's a doe that has more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side. She has more extension to that lateral attachment as well than what we see in 6. 6th place doe, really do appreciate the smoothness of blending about the shoulder assembly on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Alpine 4-year-old class, first place and best udder went to entry 102, Shady Lawn Tahoe, exhibited by Hope Pitch, Brooksville, Kentucky. Second place and second best udder to entry 109, Pleasant Grove Mono Mariah, exhibited by Hannah Knight, Franklin, Indiana. Third place to entry 107, Pleasant Grove Jam Rendezvous, exhibited by Tegan Walker, Michigan Town, Indiana. Fourth place to entry 106, Love's Blue Ridge, Cages Dia, exhibited by Brenda Leitner, Pittsboro, Indiana. Fifth place to entry 108, Pleasant Grove Mono Jazida, exhibited by Elena Weaver, Laurelville, Ohio. And sixth place to entry 105, Last Go Round AR Midas Mesa, exhibited by Caitlin Kreider, Danville, Kentucky.
Our class of Nubian 4-year-olds. Udders in this class will be 1 and 2. Our first place udder over our second place udder. Just picking up the advantage and having more extension to that forudder attachment as well as in that lateral attachment as well. Gives her the forudder advantage as well as the overall area of udder support. Our second place udder over the 3 does behind her. It's for the advantage she has in terms of having a higher rear udder attachment, a little more capacity to this mammary system than a few of the goats behind her as well. When you look at the full scorecard, in addition to that mammary system edge, first place doe does have the advantage in the area of general appearance. So you get her out on the move. She has less tendency to dip in the chine than what we see in 2, as well as in that front end assembly. She has more properly placed forelegs beneath the withers than our second place doe. 2 then placing over 3 for the advantage in the mammary system. Combine that with the advantage she also holds in her turn now in dairy strength. She's longer about the neck. She's a longer bone pounding throughout. She's more angular about that rear rib compared to the doe in 3. Third place doe over a fourth place doe, a little close placing, but a third place doe does have the advantage when it comes to general appearance, having a more correct set to that rear leg, being set more properly under the rump structure. You combine that with her edge now in dairy strength, being more open about that rear rib, and then she's a flatter boned individual than what we see in 4. 4 then placing over 5, this for her primary advantage in the mammary system. We see more capacity to this mammary system. She has more width to that forudder attachment, as well as more width to that rear udder attachment. You combine that with the fact that she has the advantage in terms of being more properly angulated about the rear leg in comparison to our doe in 5 is enough to carry her over that 5th place doe. 5th place doe, really do appreciate the sharpness of withers on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Nubian 4-year-old class, first place and best udder goes to entry 112, Hohenbu Karma Kismet, exhibited by Holly Broker. Second place and second best udder to entry 114, Bagley's Troubled Acres Hot Facts, exhibited by Lisa Bagley. Third place to entry 113, Bagley's Troubled Acres Fashionash, exhibited by Lisa Bagley. Fourth place to entry 115, Begley's Troubled Acres Boomstra, exhibited by Lisa Begley. And fifth place to entry 116, Hohenbu Unkind Divine Merit, exhibited by Holly Broker.
Our class of Alpine age does coming in line here. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 2. First place udder over our second place udder for the advantage that she has in terms of having more width to that rear udder attachment, a little more capacity up into that rear udder as well compared to the doe in 2. Our second place udder over the remainder of this class for the advantage that she has in terms of having more capacity to the mammary system, just a more pleasing shape to this mammary system when viewed from this side. When we look at the full class placings, one places over 2 primarily for that mammary system advantage. In addition to that, she has the advantage in general appearance in the feet and legs. As you watch these 2 does walk away from you, we see a doe in 1 that tracks more truly straight on that rear leg from behind than what we see in 2. 2 then placing over 3, primarily once again for that mammary system advantage. You combine that with the advantage she also holds today in the area of general appearance. In that front end assembly, she has more width in that front end. She carries that width as well through the loin area and the rump from thurl to thurl more correctly than what we see in 3. 3 then is placing over 4 in her turn for the advantage that she now has in general appearance. So as it relates to the strength of her rear leg set, just a little more properly angulated in that rear leg. She'll combine that with the advantage she also holds in the mammary system, more strength to that medial suspensory ligament today than what we see in 4. Fourth place doe, this is an 11-year-old doe just standing on a super strong set of pasterns in all 4 feet. Really appreciate how she's held up, and that's a big part of her advantage over the doe in 5. In addition to that, while she's walking around the ring, she's more correctly level in the rump from hips to pins than what we see in 5. Our 5th place doe, really do appreciate the extension of brisket on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Alpine age doe class, first place and best udder went to entry 110, Soldier Mountain Raven Soul, exhibited by Lynn Wolf, Mason, Illinois. Second place and second best udder to entry 112, Moran Russian Resistance, exhibited by Randy Adamson, Milton, Wisconsin. Third place to entry 114, Love's Blue Ridge Decadence, exhibited by Brenda Leitner, Pittsburgh, Indiana. Fourth place to entry 115, Last Go Round Dr. Riker's Edda, exhibited by Caitlin Kreider, Danville, Kentucky. And fifth place to entry 113, Last Go Round Zeb Megan, exhibited by Caitlin Kreider.
class of Nubian age does. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 3. Our first place udder over our second place udder on our third place doe for the advantage that she has in terms of extension and fullness to that footer, as well as extension to that lateral attachment, just being more extended than what we see in our second place udder. Second place udder over the other 3 does in this class, just pick up the advantage and just a little more overall area of udder support, a little more capacity to this mammary system as well. Going back to the full scorecard placings, 1 placing over 2 for the advantage in the mammary system. She additionally has more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side compared to the doe in 2. She'll combine that with the edge she also holds today in dairy strength. She's longer and leaner about the neck. She's a little more angular about that rear rib today than what we see in 2. She'll have to grant to the incredible top line on the second place doe, and it is that advantage in general appearance that carries 2 over 3. She's the advantage being more level through the chine and loin area, as well as the rump from hips to pins over our third place doe. In feet and legs, she's a doe that has more proper set to that rear leg today. She'll combine that with the advantage she also holds in the area of body capacity, just more length into that rear barrel today than what we see in our third place doe. 3 then placing over 4, this is for her primary advantage in that mammary system. Just see more balance between the halves of the mammary system, more height and width up into that rear udder attachment today. You combine that with the advantage she has in feet and legs under general appearance, being stronger in that rear pastern than the doe we see in 4. 4 then placing over 5, this is for her primary advantage in the mammary system. Once again, just picking up such an edge and capacity to the mammary system, extension of that lateral attachment, and width to forudder attachment compared to the doe here in 4. She, however, will grant to the incredible levelness of top line once again on this 5th place doe, and is that levelness of rump from hips to pins. I'll commend our doe in 5 today.
In our Nubian age doe class, first place and best udder goes to entry 120, Hohenbu BLF Feather Faithful, exhibited by Holly Broker. Second place goes to entry 119, Bagley's Troubled Acre Busybody, exhibited by Lisa Bagley. Third place and second best udder goes to entry 117, Bagley's Troubled Acre Illicit, exhibited by Lisa Bagley. Fourth place to entry 118, Hohenbu BMR Casely Kennedy, exhibited by Holly Broker. And fifth place to entry 121, Hohenbu DG Katniss Everdeen, exhibited by Holly Broker.
Our class of Alpine all-age dry doe, starting off with a close placing here at the headline. One placing over two, though, for the advantage that we see in general appearance. She's stronger in that rear pastern today than what we see in the doe in two. She'll combine that with the advantage she also holds today in dairy string. She's a doe that's a little longer about that rear rib, a little flatter boned as well compared to the doe in two. 2 and 3 in another close placing, but our second place doe does have the advantage in general appearance as it relates to the width throughout. She's wider in that front end assembly, she's wider through the loin, she's wider in the one from thurl to thurl. You combine that with the edge she has in body capacity, having more depth back into the rear barrel is enough to carry her over the doe in 3. She will have to grant to the strength of rear pasterns on this third place doe. 3 then placing over 4 for the advantage in feet and legs. She's stronger on the rear pasterns, but in addition to that, she tracks more truly forward on that front pastern. You combine that with her edge and dairy strength being leaner about the neck, a little cleaner from the neck into withers as well as enough to carry her over 4. 4 then placing over 5. This is for her advantage in general appearance as it relates to being more correctly level through the air of the rump while on the move from hips to pins. In addition to that, she has a little more proper set to that rear leg when viewed from the side compared to our doe in 5. 5 then is placing over 6. In her turn, it's for the dairy strength edge that she shows. She's more open about that rear rib. She's a little flatter bone throughout as well compared to our doe in 6. 6 then placing over 7. This is for her advantage in general appearance. In feet and legs, she's a doe that's stronger in those rear pasterns. She tracks out with more width between the hocks and more width and height up into the escutcheon than what we see in 7. Our 7th place doe, do appreciate the sharpness of withers on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Alpine dry doe class, first place went to entry 119, M&G Farms Maybelline, exhibited by Hannah Knight. Second place to entry 111, Shady Lawn Topeka, exhibited by Hope Hitch. Third place to entry 122, Grand Champion Rose Winds Magnolia, exhibited by Alexandria Stewart. Fourth place to entry 118, M&G Farms Milkshake, exhibited by Hannah Knight. Fifth place to entry 86, Caracol Arabica, exhibited by Stephanie Neeson. Sixth place to entry 121, Spinning Spider Metallica, exhibited by Debbie Haberlin. And seventh place to entry 117, Birdsong Laying Rhea Sun, exhibited by Shane Worthen. Bentley Chapman, we need your Nubian dry doe in the ring, please. Bentley Chapman.
Move on to our Nubian all-age dry doe class. Close placing here at the head of the line, but our first place doe does have the advantage when it comes to the area of dairy strength, being leaner about the neck, a little more open about that rear rib. In addition to that, she's a doe showing some more angularity about that rear leg today than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage she now has in the area of general appearance. She's longer through that chine and loin area than what we see in 3. She combines that with the advantage she also holds in the area of body capacity. Once again, just such a tremendous advantage in length of rear barrel on this doe compared to the doe in 3. 3 then placing over 4 in her turn for the advantage she has in dairy strength. She's a flatter boned individual, a little more angular throughout as well compared to the doe in 4. 4 then placing over 5. She's more abstained to the withers today, a little longer through the chine and loin area as well. Combine that with her advantage in body capacity. She's wider into that chest floor and deeper back into the rear barrel compared to the doe here in 4. 4 then placing over 5. This for her advantage in dairy strength. She's a doe that's more incurving of thigh when viewed from the side, a little more angular throughout as well compared to the doe in 5. 5 then placing over 6 for her primary advantage. Once again in that dairy strength category, she's longer and leaner about the neck. She's freer of excess fleshing compared to the doe here in 6. Our 6th place doe, really do appreciate the extension of brisket on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Nubian dry doe class, first place went to entry 130, Hohenboo Kaisley Karma, exhibited by Holly Broker. Second place to entry 126, Begley's Troubled Acres Skittles, exhibited by Lisa Begley. Third place to entry 125, KECMR Teton Charlotte, exhibited by Rob Smith. Fourth place to entry 128, Begley's Troubled Acre Hot Shot, exhibited by Lisa Begley. Fifth place to entry 122, Hohenboo Elon Mays Mosaic, exhibited by Mila Berry. Sixth place to entry 123, Bedell Farms Sweet Pea, exhibited by Madeline Bedell. And seventh place to entry 129, Moffett Farms Penny, exhibited by Allie Bedell. Let's not forget we do show for overall champion here, grand champion, so we will need the junior animals back here in just a moment. We'll stay on Alpines until we finish that and the best udder Doan show, and then we'll switch back to Nubians.
Really strong lineup here for our selection of Alpine Senior Champion. Starting here at the back of the line, just a really stylish yearling, a lot of promise for the future. Beautiful long lean neck on this doe, the dairy strength in terms of the sharpness of withers, the angularity that she shows throughout. Really have to appreciate that category on this doe. Move up to a 2-year-old doe, just a really strong doe in general appearance. Beautiful front end assembly on this doe with that extension of brisket, the smoothness of blending about the shoulder assembly, as well as being extremely tight in the elbow as well. A 3-year-old doe, just really strong in that mammary system, being a doe that shows a lot of extension to that forudder attachment, a lot of balance to that mammary system when viewed from the side, as well as being a doe that has a lot of height up into that rear udder. A 4-year-old doe, just a really eye-catching doe from this side. Really have to appreciate the strength of general appearance on this doe when it comes to feet and legs. She's a doe that's strong in those forelegs. She's straight both when viewed from the side as well as the front. And the rear legs being a doe that shows a lot of correctness in terms of angulation to the rear legs. 5-year-old doe, no, or 6-year-old doe. 5-year-old doe directly in front of her, just really excelling in that mammary system. Beautiful width and height to the rear udder on this doe. She carries a beautiful shape to this mammary system when viewed from the side. A lot of extension of that lateral attachment as well, giving her a lot of overall area of udder support. And then at the head of the line, I believe this is another 5 or 6-year-old doe. She's dry, but just showing such tremendous dairy strength with that long lean neck, the sharpness to the withers, the angularity and flatness of bone throughout. There's a few does that catch my eye out here in this lineup for different reasons, but I believe the doe that puts together all 4 areas of the scorecard most correctly, that combination of correctness of general appearance and levelness in the rump structure from thurl to thurl, combined with the advantage in the mammary system and the most pleasing shape to the mammary system when viewed from the side, and the strength of feet and legs, the strength of the pasterns, is a 2-year-old doe. She'll be our senior champion. We bring her out of line and look at our second place from that class. Just a doe that shows a lot of correctness once again in that general appearance category and the correctness of that front end assembly. Just beautiful smoothness of blending about this doe. But now not quite showing us the same strength and mammary system that we saw in our senior champion. So now for reserve, the closest competition is between this 5-year-old doe and this 4-year-old doe. And today for the advantage that she has in general appearance, once again just a little smoother blending about that front end assembly, a little tighter at the point of elbow, a little stronger on her feet and legs. I'm going to the 4-year-old doe. She'll be our reserve senior champion.
And our senior champion Alpine is our 2-year-old Moran Resilient Affirmation, exhibited by Randy Adamson, Milton, Wisconsin. Our reserve senior champion is the 4-year-old Shady Lawn RRRS Tahoe, exhibited by Hope Hitch, Brooksville, Kentucky. Congratulations.
We bring in our two junior does, our champion and reserve champion junior doe for selection of overall champion alpine, but I'm going to stay with our senior champion and senior reserve champion. They just show the correct maturity that we hope to see that comes with age, the length, the depth, the width throughout, and so I'm going to use our senior champion for overall grand and our reserve champion for overall reserve grand.
We're now looking for those Alpine best and second best uttered does, please.
Our lineup out here for our Alpine Best Udder breed. The closest competition really falls between the age doe at the headline and our 2-year-old senior champion. And today, for the advantage she has just a little more width to that rear udder, a little more properly placed teats on the udder floor, I'm going to use that age doe for our best udder of breed. We pull her out of line and look at our second place from that class. Just not quite showing the same capacity and shape to the mammary system that we saw in our best udder of breed. So now I'm going to come back to this 2-year-old doe. She'll be our reserve best udder of breed.
And our best uttered Alpine is our age doe, Soldier Mountain Loa Raven Soul, exhibited by Lynn Wolf. Our second best uttered Alpine was the 2-year-old, Moran Resilient Affirmation, exhibited by Randy Adamson. Congratulations.
Another really strong lineup out here this time for our senior champion Nubian selection. The back line, we have a yearling doe, once again just showing us so much promise with that length of body throughout. Really appreciate the angularity to the rear legs on this doe as well. Really appreciate this 2-year-old doe directly in front of her from the side. Just beautiful front end assembly on this doe with that extension of brisket, the well-placed forelegs beneath the withers. She walks around the ring so smoothly in that shoulder assembly as well. Combine that with a lot of strength and dariness and that long lean neck, the openness to ribbing and flatness of bone. A 3-year-old doe directly in front of her, just a beautiful mammary system on this doe. Love the shape of this mammary system, both when viewed from the side as well as from behind. A lot of height and width to that rear udder attachment, a lot of extension to that lateral attachment. In front of her is a 4-year-old doe, just an incredibly dairy doe once again. Love that long lean neck, the angularity, the openness and flatness of bone that she shows throughout. Combine that with just an exceptionally strong set of rear legs in terms of angulation when viewed from the side. An age doe in front of her, just a doe holding up so well for her age. Really appreciate the overall area of udder support, the width of rear udder on this doe. Combine that with a lot of strength and dariness and flatness of bone and angularity throughout. And then our dry doe here at the headline, just a really powerful individual. Really appreciate the width and depth of chest floor and the depth back into the rear barrel. The two closest competitors for me are this first place 3-year-old and our first place 4-year-old. And today, for the advantage that she has in that mammary system, just a little more pleasing shape to the mammary system when viewed from the side. You combine that with a slight advantage in general appearance in that front end assembly, just a little tighter at the point of elbow. And that's our 3-year-old doe. She'll be our senior champion. We pull her out of line and look at our second place from that class. Just a really eye-catching doe when it comes to general appearance and that levelness over the top line. The correct set to the rear legs, but now not quite showing us the same strength and mammary that we saw in our senior champion. So I'm going to go up an age group to our 4-year-old doe. She'll be our reserve senior champion.
And our senior champion Nubian was the 3-year-old Bagley's Troubled Acres Hoopla, exhibited by Lisa Bagley. The reserve champion was our 4-year-old Hohenboo BMR Karma Kismet, exhibited by Holly Broker. Congratulations.
We bring back our junior champion, reserve junior champion for selection of overall grand and reserve. And I'm going to stay with our two older does for overall grand and reserve. They just once again have that combination of depth of body, width throughout, dairy strength, all the things that come with maturity stay with our senior doe champion as our overall champion and our senior doe reserve champion as our overall reserve champion. Now have our lineup for our Nubian best udder. A lot of the reasons why our 3-year-old was grand is going to make her best udder. She just excels this lineup in overall area of udder support, the capacity to that mammary system, just a beautiful shape to that mammary system. So for those reasons, our grand will be our best udder of breed. We once again look at that second place from that class, but now not quite showing us the same bloom to that mammary system that we saw in our grand. So I'm going to go right back up to our reserve champion, and she's going to be our reserve best udder of breed.
And our best uttered Nubian was the 3-year-old Bagley's Troubled Acres Hoopla, exhibited by Lisa Bagley. Our second best uttered Nubian was the 4-year-old Hohenbu Karma Kismet, exhibited by Holly Broker. Congratulations.
Five entries out here for our Alpine Dairy Herd class. I'm going to start with the group in the middle as our first place dairy herd over the group on my far right. as our second place dairy herd. They have the advantage just in terms of the correctness of rear leg set, a little more ease of motion as a group in that rear leg set, a little more of an advantage in terms of overall area of udder support compared to our second place group. Our second place group over our third place group on my far left for the advantage that they share as a group in terms of that mammary system, just more height and width as a group in that rear udder attachment, more overall area of udder support than that group in 3. 3 then placing over my fourth place group, we just see a more consistent advantage in terms of capacity across all 4 members. We're also seeing a slight advantage in terms of levelness in that rump structure across all 4 members of the dairy herd compared to the group in 4. 4 then placing over 5 in their turn for the advantage that they now have in that dairy strength category. Just as a group, they're flatter boned, more open individuals than our 5th place group. Our 5th place group really do appreciate the width and depth throughout that they show, and they should be commended for that. Just a pair of entries here for our Nubian dairy herd class. I'm going to use the group on my right over the group on my left for the advantage that they share in terms of just being stronger in all pasterns, specifically the rear pasterns, as well as the group. They're better combination of dairy strength and the length of bone pounded throughout, the flatness of bone throughout on all 4 members compared to our group in 2. Our second place group really do appreciate the overall area of udder support that each one of these does show, and they should be commended for that. Our class of best three senior females. I'm going to go with the group second from my right as our first place group over the group on my right as our second place group. They once again just show me a little more consistency in that mammary system, a little more overall area of udder support. You combine that with the advantage they also hold, just showing me a little more consistency and strength to that rear leg set. It's enough to carry them over two. Two then is going to place over three, which is the third group from my right, for the advantage that they share now in terms of the capacity to the mammary system, the width to the rear udder attachments that they share over our group in three. Three then placing over four, which is the group directly beside them, for the advantages that they hold in terms of dairy strength and the flatness of bone and openness throughout compared to our fourth place group. Our fourth place group over our fifth place group, taking a goat out of each one of these groups and flip them from dairy herd. Just seeing now more evidence of capacity for these three does as opposed to our fifth place group. And our fifth place group over our sixth place group, they just show me a better combination of strength of bone throughout compared to our group in six. Our sixth place group, do appreciate the sharpness of withers on them. Nubian best three senior does. I'm going to stay with a group on my right over the group on my left. Once again, just showing a better combination of dairy strength and flatness of bone throughout, as well as a little better in terms of length through the top line, levelness through the loin area. Compared to our group here on the left, our second place group really do appreciate the width and height of rear udders on each one of these does, and they should be commended for that. A single entry here in our Nubian Get a Sire class. Just a group that could have stood a lot of competition. Really appreciate all three of these does in terms of their overall area of udder support, the width and height, the rear udder, the placement it teats on the udder floor. They'll be first in this class today.
As we're bringing in our last class of alpines for the afternoon, I want to take just a minute to recognize our premier breeder and premier exhibitors of our 2025 Alpine Show. Those awards this year, both those awards go to Randy Adamson from Milton, Wisconsin. Congratulations.
Our last Alpine class of the day. This is a produce of dam class. I'm going to use our group third from my right as our first place group. They're going to place over our second place group, which is the second from my left. For the advantage that they have as a group in that dairy strength category, they're just showing me more openness to ribbing and flatness of bone than what we see in our second place group. Our second place group over our third place group, which is to their left. For the advantage that we see as a combo, they're showing me better set to the rear legs, tracking out with more width between the hocks as a pair than what we see in our third place group. Our third place group over our fourth place group, which is going to be the pair of black does on the far right, for the advantage that they have now in their own turn and general appearance, just showing me a little more correctness in terms of, once again, that straight rear leg when viewed from behind, the width and height up into the escutcheon as a pair compared to our group in four. Fourth place group over our fifth place group in the middle of the ring. They're showing me a little more correctness in terms of dairy strength and that length of bone pound throughout and flatness of bone throughout compared to our group in five. And then five over six, once again, just a feet and leg advantage and having a pair of does that show me more proper angulation and set to the rear leg, a little more extension of brisket as a pair than what we see in six. Our sixth place doe, do appreciate the width of rump on both of these does and they should be commended for that. Our class of Nubian produce of dam. I'm going to use the group second from my right as our first place group over the group on my right, our second place group, for the combination of dairy strength advantage that they have, the flatness of bone, the openness throughout, combined with a slight advantage in terms of just showing me more extension and fullness to the forwarder today as a pair, compared to my second place group. My second place group over my third place group, which is on my far left. Now for their advantage and capacity to the mammary system, width and height to the rear udder attachments that they show as a pair over that third place group. Three then placing over for this for the advantage that they have, just showing me more overall area of udder support, as well as a slight advantage in terms of strength to the rear pasterns over our fourth place group. Our fourth place group really do appreciate the depth of rear barrel on the pair of these does, and they should be commended for that.
As we wind up our Nubian show, I need to announce our Premier Breeder and Premier Exhibitor. This year, both of those awards go to Miss Holly Broker. Report of awards is ready if anyone wants to sign.